This week, video gaming addiction, Lego roller coasters, and poetry, straight from the lion's mouth. This weekend at the V&A Museum in London, a new exhibition opens celebrating the art and design behind video games. Design, Play, Disrupt tries to unpack the processes which have given rise to some of the biggest video games titles in recent years. Like this Nintendo mega hit Splatoon, which somewhat refreshingly has squids firing ink rather than bullets in their quest to paint the world with colour. So here you can see the various stages of the game's design, and what's interesting is although you have your concept art, your fashion design and your set design, what came first was this early prototype which features none of that and was simply designed to see whether the gameplay would be fun.
Video games are without doubt sort of one of the most ubiquitous cultural and design forms of our time, that there's an estimated 2.2 billion people in the world who play video games, which is almost a quarter of the world's population. And as such, it means that it's really important that various cultural institutions and spaces of design embrace and explore and elevate this design medium.
Of course, as video games have become enmeshed in culture, so their role in society and their potential to influence individuals has come under increasing scrutiny. And there have been few bigger concerns in this world recently than those surrounding gaming addiction. Recently recognised by the World Health Organization as a mental health condition, the National Health Service here in the UK has announced that it will now set up its first treatment centre. And that means that the media, has jumped on the issue. But just how concerned should you be about gaming addiction? Is it a growing concern or a moral panic? Mark Chislak has been investigating.
In the last few months, headlines about video games have been dominated by negative stories about the effect of games on mental health. A hit with younger gamers and the most popular title in the world right now, Fortnite has been a lightning rod for these stories in the press. This, combined with a recent report by the World Health Organization in Geneva, which classifies gaming disorder as a mental health condition, has created a perfect storm in terms of press outrage. But how big a problem are we talking about? Games industry trade bodies dispute the World Health Organization's findings, suggesting that more research is needed and that the WHO has been premature in deciding that video games disorder is a mental health condition.
We have documented evidence that the same problem and the same conditions are being observed in countries of Africa, of Europe, of Americas, so it's really a global phenomenon.
How is the World Health Organization defining video games disorder?
It's a very specific definition. You need to have three essential features. One is that there is an impairment of control over gaming behavior. The second one is that this behavior takes precedence over all other activities, previous activities and hobbies. And third one, when this behavior continues or even is escalated in spite of the negative consequences for a person. Additional extremely important criteria are that this behavior should be observed for at least 12 months and it should result in significant impairment in important areas of functioning of a person.
Could some people worry that someone they know or perhaps their child has video games disorder when in fact they just play games for a very long time?
First of all, we need to make it very clear that playing video games, it doesn't mean at all that this person, even if intense gaming, has a gaming disorder. According to available scientific evidence, we may think that the proportion of people who actually develop gaming disorder may be even less than 1% or very few percent of those who are engaged in video gaming.
But of that small number of gamers affected, what help is out there? In the UK, help for video games addiction is available, and in extreme cases, treatment can be sought in private rehabs like this one. Situated in a quiet part of Surrey, Primrose Lodge is a residential rehab which treats people with drug, alcohol, gambling and video games addictions. Have you noticed an increase in the number of people that come for treatment for a problem with video games addiction?
It's quite interesting because initially we saw people coming in what I call with an additional addiction, so substance and gaming. But over the last 18 months or so, we've seen an increase in pure gaming addiction.
Peter is in his 40s. He was a lifelong gamer until his entire world fell apart as a result of his addiction to playing video games.
I liked action and first-person shooter games like Half-Life, Unreal Tournament, Counter-Strike and Team Fortress, team-based shooters. I would come home from work and play pretty much all night, and then pretty much all weekend as well, and it started causing quite big problems at home with my family. I had 2 children at the time.
What effect did that have on the people around you?
Eventually, due to the amount of time I spent on there, I did lose my job. I was so tired all the time, and I got the sack from where I was working. I do feel a lot of shame around it, you know. I hurt them people very badly, and I thought until I came into treatment, until I came into recovery, I thought it was because I really liked gaming. Because it was online gaming and I'm not sticking needles in myself like, say, a heroin addict would, I think I can kid myself that it's no big deal.
Peter spent a month in rehab and has been in recovery for 4 years, abstaining completely from playing games. So how do you treat people that have a video games addiction problem?
It's more closely aligned to gambling addiction. The treatment is very much the same. Group therapy and one-to-one counselling sessions to strip away the addictive process and look to what's underneath and driving that process.
Residential rehab treatment can cost thousands of pounds. In the UK, the National Health Service is taking video games disorder seriously and is in the early stages of trialling its own treatment programme. But does the games industry itself have a role to play in light of the World Health Organisation's findings? Dr. Joe Twist is CEO of the UK games industry trade body. It wholeheartedly disagrees with the World Health Organisation, questioning the scientific evidence provided by the WHO.
Our view is an industry body and in line with many academics from research, psychologists, social scientists, lots of academic practitioners who feel that there is no consensus around the evidence based upon which this is being drafted. We believe that this is premature to include this as a gaming disorder at this stage, and we believe that the evidence is confused and there just is no consensus at this time.
One thing that I would put straightforward, I think what we can expect is that the gaming industry would recognize the arguments that public health professionals present on existence of gaming disorder as a new, relatively new health condition, which becomes an issue for healthcare systems in many countries. And just acceptance of this fact would be, I think, an important step in addressing the problem.
The games industry takes its responsibility to its players very seriously indeed, but it is a shared responsibility. We can't tell parents how to parent, and we don't dare to. What we want to do is to be able to support parents so that they understand how to protect their children, how they can use the parental controls, how they can set time limits, how they can talk to their children about what it is that they're doing and what draws them to particular kinds of games, and to actually play with them.
For most of us who play games, the negative headlines in the press don't reflect our experience. For us, games are an entertainment form as creative and vital as movies or music. But as games have become more popular and widespread, new problems are emerging. Problems which we will have to address.
Yeah, indeed. So, Mark, is this whole thing a moral panic?
It is. Every couple of years this kind of rolls around. The newspapers like to give games a bit of grief. And this time round, the massive success and popularity of Fortnite has focused a lot of parents' attention on how much time their kids are spending playing video games and what games they're playing.
And on that subject, would you say there are certain genres of games that cause particular problems?
Well, this is interesting. I asked the World Health Organization about this, and they were really, really vague. They said online multiplayer games. Now, you couldn't be more vague than that because there's a wide variety of different games which are online multiplayer. And ultimately, when pressed, they said more research needed to be done.
Okay, well, in your opinion then, if they can't talk about the genre of games, are there certain things within games, certain things that games do that that trigger these problems?
Well, again, I asked them about that, and they said that they were concerned about certain mechanics in games. They were particularly concerned about monetization and anything that resembles gambling, for instance.
So this could be micropayments, where you buy a little thing in a game?
Absolutely. They were very, very concerned about that. Loot boxes, where players can pay money or pay for a key which opens up new skills, new outfits, that kind of thing. That was a very much a concern for them, and has been a concern for certain governments around the world who are starting to ban loot boxes in games.
Hello and welcome to the Week in Tech. It was the week that Mercedes launched its first all-electric car. Despite no official price tag yet, thousands have been pre-ordered. Sony finally ends its repair service for the best-selling games console of all time, PlayStation 2. It's been 6 years since they stopped making them. And these have been banned in schools in France. The new law will affect pupils up to the age of around 15. The government hopes it will reduce distractions during class, encourage more physical activity, and help tackle online bullying. And the head of the UK's largest police service wants access to Facebook profiles within minutes of starting serious crime investigations. It comes after a suspect in the fatal stabbing of a 13-year-old girl was sentenced to 14 months behind bars for failing to hand over his password to officers. And last but not least, for the first time, a robot boat has made it across the Atlantic. Taking 80 days and sailing over 5,000 kilometres, the unmanned and slightly small vessel made the arduous journey from Canada to the coast of Ireland. Powered by batteries that are recharged by its solar panels, the vessel isn't finished yet and is currently making its way towards Norway.
It's every parent's nightmare. Losing sight of your child, even for a few seconds, can be terrifying. And in the dystopian future of Black Mirror, it leads this mother to implant her child with an all-seeing monitoring device. One slightly less invasive solution is to give them a smartphone, which means they are contactable and trackable using GPS. And in fact, 83% of young teenagers in the UK now own a smartphone, which of course raises that spectre of device addiction from an early age. So what if you had a way of knowing your child's location and communicating with them without the need for a smartphone? Enter the Norwegian Explorer smartwatch, a children's wearable with an inbuilt SIM card and a GPS locator. Parents can keep track of them on their app and will get an alert if the child leaves a predefined safety zone. It also acts as a phone, allowing the child to ring or receive calls and texts from trusted contacts, or to send an SOS if they feel in danger. Sounds like a good idea, but wherever there's tracking, there's the worry of hacking. And the boss, Jesus Llamazares, admits it's a very sensitive issue. As a parent of young kids myself, I absolutely want to know they're safe and I want to know where they are, but I also don't want anyone else to know where they are. And there is the worry of hacking with any kind of location tracking, isn't there?
We have been working very, very intensively with data protection agencies in Norway and in Germany. And also with a third party, TUV, which is a very well recognized certified partner for security services.
Do you think there's a danger that we're moving towards a society where we are happy to constantly surveil our children and our family, and we're moving towards a world where there is no privacy? And do you think there's an age at which kids don't need to wear this kind of device?
These devices are designed for kids below the moment they have a smartphone. There are also some use cases that we try to promote all the time around health. That is, if your child is going for a football match or doing some activity out there, sometimes the smartphone is not the best thing to wear, but this smartwatch is able to keep you connected, right? So there are some use cases, even for teenagers, that the watch is quite useful. The increasing worry that is in our world is that the kids are all the time with the tablets of the fathers, of the parents, and we want them to go out, play. This not just being connected with your family, no access to social media, blah, blah, etc., but as well be outside, enjoy experience out of your home, right? With your friends, with your family, not being all the time with the tablets. Of course, they will still have a lot of time with the tablets, smartphones, consoles, etc., but this is something we cannot avoid, probably.
This is Nelson's Column in Trafalgar Square, and for over 150 years its base has been guarded by 4 giant lions. But soon these guys are going to be joined by a 5th, and a rather unusual one at that. Now it's arriving with the help of Google, and Paul Carter has been to find out more.
Protests, celebrations, mourning. Trafalgar Square has long been a place where voices have come together. The lions that have sat in the square since 1867 have heard them all. But what if they could speak? As part of London Design Festival, a 5th lion is going to appear in the square, powered by machine learning. The result is an interactive sculpture called Please Feed the Lions, a collaboration between designer Ez Devlin and Google Arts and Culture Lab. Members of the public will be able to feed the lions with words, which in turn will generate poetry created by an artificial neural network. It uses an algorithm known as Long Short-Term Memory Recurrent Neural Network, snappy. It has learned how to write by reading millions of words of 19th century poetry, relevant to the time the lions were first installed in the square.
Machine learning becomes a way not to replace human poetry writing, but a way to allow people who wouldn't normally be able to write a poem or wouldn't normally think of writing a poem, but to enable them to gather their words together and form a collective stream of thought, to add order to what could otherwise be a chaos of people's jammed together thoughts. And you don't have to go to the square to take part in this. You can go onto the website and contribute online as well, so it's not just for Londoners. That's very important to me.
The algorithm works by learning to predict the next text character over and over again, always taking into account those that came before. Similar to predictive text, it repeats this process until it can do so accurately on sequences it hasn't seen before. When members of the public feed in words of their own, the machine will expand them into its own form of poetry. Once the poems have been generated, they will be projected onto a screen in the mouth of the lion, and when it gets dark, onto Nelson's Column. But hang on a minute, isn't asking members of the public to input their own words asking for trouble?
We've applied filters. So filters where all of the words have to be in the Oxford English Dictionary, and then there's filters against offensive words. And if you try to enter a word that the lion is not happy with, then it will simply tell you, I'm unable to digest this word. Please try again.
So with AI and machine learning becoming more commonplace in the arts, what does the future hold for the relationship between art and technology?
Does technology make sense? Does it add a value? Because if not, then, leave the art alone. But if it can be a tool, a creative tool perhaps, or perhaps a collaborator, I'd say with the case of the lions, it's both a tool and a collaborator. Or perhaps it enables the art to be accessed and experienced more broadly.
That was Paul Carter. Now, I think it's fair to say that we have a pretty fun job here on Click. But there is one company which dedicates a whole day every year to letting its employees simply play. And Kate Russell went to see just what difference that can make.
The late great Sir George Bernard Shaw is known to have said, "We don't stop playing because we grow old because we stop playing." Well, I've come along to Lego headquarters in London to find out a little more about the science behind play. For LEGO employees, the 7th of September is Play Day, when they take time off their normal duties to have fun with the products at the heart of the business.
I think the Play Day is a time for us to get back to understand our role models, get back to understand why are we here as whichever department you're in, to think about the fact that I might be in PO&D, I might be in finance, but at the end of the day, I'm here for getting that smile on the kid's face.
You'll get no argument from me that a day of play is good for the spirit, but is there a scientific reason why it could be good for our health? That's the question scientists at the University of London Goldsmiths want to answer.
So this is an unprecedented exploratory research project to try to understand the effect of play on workforces. We have a fairly traditional experimental design. We have a control environment at the beginning, a regular work day, and then we have a play day where they're exposed throughout the day to a variety of play interventions. And then we have a day after which we can examine the residual effect of the play day on the individuals.
Today they're running a proof of concept pilot to see what results a serious study might turn up in the future. A small group of volunteers have been connected to heart rate monitors to measure the physiological effects of stimulating play throughout a series of different activities. They'll also be self-reporting the psychological effects by answering a series of specially designed questions through a chatbot.
So, Ian Wynne is the man with the tech. What's that?
So this is a high-resolution heart rate monitor. It's 1,000 hertz. You just put it under your top, in contact with the skin.
Right.
Put that around the back, clip it on.
Brilliant.
And go play.
And then go play. Oh, if I must.
I'm a big roller coaster fan, and what better way to get your heart racing? So I recruited Mini Me and Mini Spencer for some good old-fashioned play. Chris explained that the brain controls the speed of our heartbeats based on what's going on around us. When we need greater concentration or to handle stressful situations, it speeds the heart up, increasing blood flow. Then the heart slows back down again when we enter a period of rest and recovery. Looks like Mini Spencer might need a longer period of convalescence after that ride, though.
Yeah, I was bricking it, to be honest.
So what are the results that you expect to get from the baseline versus the play day with our LEGO people?
So what we're expecting to see is really good engagement, so the scores will go down as they need more energy, more activity, more concentration on the really difficult tasks, but really good recoveries as well because they're enjoying it. So once they've had that stressful moment, they should be able to bounce back and recover really quickly, ready for the next one.
If you're constantly stressed and on edge, you won't experience the peaks and troughs associated with healthy brain-heart activity.
There's a difference between acute stress and chronic stress. Acute stress you'd expect. If the lion pops up behind you, then fight or flight is the right response. If you have long-term stress, chronic stress, then that can be a much more negative indication. I think everybody's really excited now. There's a whole renewed energy worldwide around well-being in the workplace and trying to understand how we can better motivate and engage with workforces and employees. And I think play is a really interesting and innovative way that we can do that.
The results are in from this pilot and suggest certain types of play could help workers recover more quickly from stressful periods and, crucially, might help raise levels of confidence and creativity in certain personality types. I guess I'm the type of personality that would quite happily sit in a spinning top all day.
Spencer, can we get one of these in the office, please?
So that's what ROFL means. Rolling on the floor laughing. Thank you. And yes, we will order one in, especially for you, Kate. That's it for this week. Don't forget we live on Facebook and on Twitter, so you can find us at BBC Click. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.